I used to be terrified of dying. When I
Yes.
say terrified, it wasn't even the prospect of going to hell, because I didn't think about heaven or hell, for 25
Right.
years. It was like, I think there's a God. I know there's a God, but I don't really know if there's a God. But I used to be terrified of dying. And I'm like, I'm going to have a heart attack, or I'm going to get hit by a car. I used to have
Right.
this weird fear as a teenager that a man in overalls was going to come in my house while I was in the shower and murder me. And that went on, yeah, like weird.
Yeah.
But that went
Right.
on for like 7 or 8 years. I'm like, this man in these overalls is going to come in. He's going to come in and he's
Oh
going to
man.
kill me. Another thing, as far as the entities that I spoke about, and you don't know this back then, because you don't know about
Right.
spirits and angels and demons, and the devil, wants you, and the Lord is trying to protect you. There used to be, and I mean, this happened for years. There would be a light body, a very light body being that would sit on the edge of my bed and just bounce. Now, when I say I could feel, I'm laying completely still in the bed, but at the
Right.
edge of the bed, it would just be like, I thought it was a little kid. I'm like, well, maybe it's my little brother, that
Yeah.
he would have been my older brother, but I'm like, well, maybe it's him. And
Yeah.
he would bounce. Another thing about when I was younger, I used to read a lot of horror books.
Yeah.
Amityville horror was big. I used to watch the Amityville horror movies. I used to just not even consider like watching these, Jason, Freddy Krueger,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't dare watch them now. But even as I got older, I was like, okay, this isn't really that scary. But back when I was a child, this was terrifying, but I kept
Right.
watching it.
Right.
So always the fear of dying, always having that. And that little, whatever it was that would bounce on the bed would follow me, like it wasn't just at my house. It was like every place that I moved, it was always there.
So it was attached to you.
Yes, yes. And like I
Yikes.
said, I don't know from where. I don't, and it, I've seen angels. So, and this is just glory be to God. When you're a child of God, before you know that you're a child of God, you see, I was reading the Amityville horrors, and of course that's a gateway because you're reading about, different stuff. And I put the book down and I woke up in the middle of the night and an angel was standing over my bed at the end of my bed. And I looked, and then it just opened up its wings and just fell and disappeared. Now, I
Oh
used to be
wow.
high a lot. Used to be
Right.
high.
Right.
Like, so I thought I saw an alien, like, and I need to call my girlfriend because I'm like, she has a memory out of this world. And I want to
Right.
call her and say, do you remember that night that we were at the IBM parking lot getting high? Do you remember us seeing that UFO?
Yeah.
And now I don't believe, I believe it's either angels or demons. Like there's
Yeah.
no in between, but I clearly
Right.
remember seeing an angel. And I was like, oh, I just always thought that was my guardian angel. I also had an encounter where I was at my sister's house as a teenager and I was asleep, and this lady walked into the room, and I mean, she had a Holly Berry haircut. She had on like an orange shirt. She didn't
Right.
say anything. She just looked at me, but I knew that she was telling me to go and check on my niece. And my niece was like not even 3 or 4 months old. So I went, I got up and I checked on my niece. She was in her crib, she was okay. I went and checked on my brother-in-law and my sister, and they were okay. But these are instances that stick out in my mind because I'm like, I've seen things and have had interactions, with beings
Oh
that
yeah.
probably aren't from this world.
I just got
You know?
chills, girl.
Girl, so always
It's so real.
terrified of dying, like, and what's funny, sis? Being terrified of dying is different than being terrified of going to hell.
Yeah.
And for me, it was never a thought of, if I die in my sins like this, I'm going to hell. Like that, it was just, I just didn't want to die because I felt like,
Right.
my life it was okay. I mean, I had jobs, I had friends, I had men, but I just didn't want to die,
Right.
So when I was like, late 20s, I was getting high a lot. I mean, I had been getting high. There was never a day that went by, even when I didn't have money.
Right.
We would go and donate blood to get high. We would save up roaches to be able to smoke the roaches if we got really, really down. And that's how you know it was an addiction. It was an idol.
Oh yeah.
True idol. So I had stopped.
Do anything.
Who donates blood to get high? Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that donate blood to get high. But looking back on that, I'm just like, that was so tragic, that I needed it that much that I would be like, you know what, we're going to ride to Virginia and we're going to donate some blood, and then we're going to be able to get us some weed. So in my late 20s, maybe 27, 28, I would be smoking and I would have like really bad heart palpitations. And I'd be like, I'm going to die. Like, I'm going to be, somebody's going to find me in here. Or if my house doesn't burn down from the blunt that drops once I pass out and die, they're going to find me in here with all of this weed and I'm going to die. So I cold turkey stopped smoking. I was like, yeah, I'm done. This isn't working for me. So I got into a relationship, stayed in that relationship for about 7 years, very toxic, very, very toxic. Ended up getting out of that relationship in 2015. Yeah, 2015. And then I tell people,